Good day, grade sevens. So today's lesson will be a social studies lesson, and you will need to turn to page 120 for that lesson. I have prepared a PowerPoint for you, but you will also need to refer back to the workbook or the textbook, should I say. So yeah, our lesson today is about oil trade, and there are a few important facts or information that I've taken out of the text to share with you. So oil is an important natural resource, okay? It is expensive and boosts the economy of a country. So oil is expensive, but at the same time, it also has the ability to boost the economy of any country. Now, the economy is the financial status of the country. Okay, so whether people are rich or whether they're well off, etc. Oil is a source of electricity, fuel for transportation, and petrochemicals which are used to produce plastics. Electricity is something that we need in our everyday lives. So is transportation for family use, for business use, for all types of use. And that also keeps the economy going. And petrochemicals, which are used to produce plastics. So there's a lot of tangible products out there which need to be produced because of oil. And oil is also a primary resource for international trade. So these are the importance of oil. Let's move on. Water in your fridge needs oil. The bread you eat and the bus which takes you to school all needs oil. Metal, wood, clothes, paper, and anything you might need daily depends on oil. This factor makes countries which possess oil amongst the richest in the world. So here we see that countries that possess a lot of oil are amongst the richest countries in the world. So it helps to boost a country's economy. The greater the need, the higher the prices. So if you are a country that possesses oil and other countries need your oil, you can make the price very high, which will make your country rich. Recent studies warn people, however, to find alternatives to oil since the available quantities may not last longer than 100 years. And that is another reason why at the moment Saudi Arabia has a 2030 vision. They don't want to depend on oil anymore, and they want to move more towards industry, which is business and things like that, because oil is a non-renewable resource. Once it's used up, it eventually we need to look for more. We need to find more reservoirs with oil. So that creates a problem. So it shows us here how important oil is, though. We use it in everyday life. But studies have warned us that we need to look for other ways for oil, for other ways to save energy. So because the oil resources are running out. So let's have a look at some oil-rich countries. So it says here, most of the world's oil supply is extracted in Asian countries. Extracted means it is taken out of Asian countries. Saudi Arabia is the leading country in production. So Saudi Arabia at the moment is the leading country in production. They are extracting the most oil. Saudi Arabia, like other oil extracting countries, is part of an organization called OPEC or OPEC, better known OPEC. It stands for the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Companies. So a lot of Asian countries, and like Saudi Arabia as well, produce a lot of oil. So the organization, they handle and organize oil issues. So any country that has a lot of oil is part of OPEC. And here's just a little bit of extra information that during the oil crisis of 1973, the crisis is when countries were badly affected by oil or they didn't have enough oil. Arab members of OPEC proclaimed an oil embargo. What is an oil embargo? It's prohibition of movement of ships in and out of certain countries. So the oil-strong countries during this time period, they proclaimed an oil embargo. They stopped European countries and Western Europe and the US from coming in to just take oil because it was in their land. So OPEC resolved this issue, and what did they do? They raised the oil prices so they could get more money for the oil. So OPEC's power has diminished, however. So diminished means the power of OPEC has become smaller. You know why? Because other oil reserves have been found in other countries. So That also means that a lot of countries won't be buying the oil from the Asian countries in the near future so much anymore because other oil reserves are being found. Let's move on. And here we see oil trade. Okay, so many leading countries such as the USA, Germany, and France depend on importing oil. They have to buy it in from the Asian countries because they don't have their own resources. The challenge for countries is finding new reservoirs to meet the great demand of oil. Oil is in a great demand because you see in the previous slides that we use oil and we need oil in our everyday lives. Oil extracting costs companies lots of money. So for companies and oil rigs, it costs them a lot of money to dig for the oil under the sea or in the land or where they can find oil. Oil also helps governments on source of income, increases the economy. So oil is good for a country's economy, as we discussed previously. It helps to create jobs. Okay, it's good for the economy in that they'll be making their own bread. Oil is used in everyday life, so electricity will be cheaper and so on. However, now governments are thinking of ways to find new domestic oil supplies. So governments around the world, they're looking to find new domestic oil supplies. Domestic means in their own country, because to import oil is quite expensive. They're also looking at ways to conserve energy. That means they're looking at ways of how they can save energy, and they are looking at ways at developing alternative energy sources. So here we see in this picture, solar energy, wind energy. Those are all renewable sources of energy, okay? Such as oil is not. Once it's used up, it's used. So we need to preserve and we need to conserve energy. And then here, lastly, in the last slide, we have ways to conserve energy. So for example, you could turn off your fridge, okay, or turn your fridge use down, make it lower. Don't run the dishwasher if it's not full. Clean or replace air filters in air conditioners. Use compact fluorescent bulbs. Wrap your water heater in an insulating jacket. Those are just a few examples of how one can also conserve or save energy. And I would like you and encourage you to think of your own as well. Now, if we go into the book, which is on page 120, we will see here that there's also an activity that you need to complete. So you could have a read. The PowerPoint is a summary of what we have in the book there. And we can also, I encourage you to go and read this, please. It's very important because in your exams, I might take out other information from there. And there it gives us the list of countries that were all part, or all the Asian countries that has plenty oil resources. And if you look at Saudi Arabia, they are leading there. Okay, look at those numbers, quite big numbers. And the next page, it also shows us ways to save energy in this brown table here. And it gives us a bit of more information, which I have summarized in the PowerPoint for you. Right, lastly, regarding the exercise, and we're going to look at this a bit, okay, which you'll need to do. What is different about a country which produces oil and why? So if we go to page 120 and I try and help you look for that, for the answer to that question, it says here, oil is one of the most important natural resources which countries fight to own. And the question was, let's just go back to the question. What is different about a country which produces oil and why? So, it says here, the importance of oil lies in its being a major source of electricity, fuel for transportation, sorry about that, and petrochemicals, which are used to produce plastic products. Okay? So, it says here as well, let's go back to this one. Over here we have another important point. This major factor makes countries which possess oil amongst the richest in the world. So countries that possess oil, it makes them amongst the richest in the world. I want you to underline until there. Okay, so I'm not completely going to be answering this activity for you. I'm guiding you as to where you can find the crucial answers. Right, so what is different about a country which produces oil? We know that they are more rich than other countries, okay? And why? Because oil is needed for everyday usage. And what happens in that case? People start importing from oil-rich countries, okay? Number two, so I want you to have a look at that page as well, a bit more, and look for more in-depth answers to this question. What is different about a country which produces oil and why? Exercise 2. Why do recent studies encourage people to find alternatives to oil? So recent studies are encouraging people to find alternative means to find different ways to oil, okay? And let's go to that page there. It says here, recent studies warn people about the need to find alternatives to oil since the available quantities may not last for a period of longer than 100 years. That is the reason why. Because like I explained earlier, oil is a non-renewable resource. Okay, once it burns out, we need to look for more. All right, so that's very important. Number 3, what is oil embargo? Now, let's go back to this page over here, page 121. And there you will see what is an oil embargo. I explained it quite nicely in the PowerPoint as well. And we'll see here, Saudi Arabia, like other oil extracting countries, is a member of an international organization that handles and organizes oil issues. Okay, let's just have a look there again. Okay, so here we see the following. It says here, they handle and organize oil issues. But what is an embargo? It says here, an oil embargo. So there we see a keyword for our answer. And I also saw it here somewhere. Okay, so the embargo was against the United States and Western Europe. The OPEC intervened to solve the problem by raising the prices of petroleum remarkably. So I want you to read through this and try and understand this concept of OPEC and the embargo. Okay? And then I think we have one more question. No, 2 more. So number 4, name 3 ways to conserve energy. Name 3 ways to save energy. And if we go onto this page over here, you can have a look at this table here and look. There are obviously more examples. Those are just 5 that's taken here. There's many, many more examples that you can think of. I actually encourage you not to use these ones and think of your own or research. And the last question was, name 1 Arab country which is an important oil supplier. You could obviously, that's very easy. Okay, grade 7s, thank you very much.